In this video, let's talk about data validation. Data validation is basically forcing your users to enter values that meet certain requirements. So right here we have a form where your user is going to fill out a customer name, an order number, all sorts of address information, the date or a particular date that you're looking for, and then what kind of delivery do they want, standard 3-day, 2-day, and then we have a formula here that will return the number of delivery days. And a common problem is if you don't do data validation, let's say your user enters 6-day. Well, we don't have such a thing, or they mistype it. Let's say they type 3 space dy or 3 dy day, any kind of misspelling, and all of a sudden our formulas start breaking down because they don't recognize what this is. So we want to force them to have to put in something that we recognize. Same thing with this item ID. We have a whole list of item IDs over here. I don't want to let them type something and have it be wrong or something that's not on our list. So we're going to use data validation to force them to put in something that's in our list. So let's start with the order number, and let's say our company has a rule that the order number has to be 5 characters long. So we'll select that cell, and under the data ribbon we go to data validation, and it opens up this box, and we have some settings. And what do we allow? By default, Excel allows any value in any cell. Well, we're about to change that. We're going to say, hey, I want this to be a whole number, and then you could say it needs to be between or greater than. In this case, we said this needs to be 5 characters long. There's one for text length. It has to be between 4 to 5 or greater than 5 or whatever. We will just say equal to 5. So I hit OK. It accepts it. Now, if I type just 3 characters, I'm going to get some kind of error. It says does not match, and then it goes back to the old one. If I type 5 characters, it's going to accept it. Now, also under data validation, you have an input message and an error alert. So we have our setting equal to 5. The input message title, min length, maybe we'll have as the title, and the message is must be 5 characters. And you can have an error alert. So the style, we have a stop, a warning, and information. Basically, information will let them violate the rule. If they only type 4, we'll give them, say, hey, this should be 5, but we'll keep the 4. Or stop will not let them put in the 4. So min length again for the, and must be 5. Same thing. So now we have an error alert, an input message, and our settings. So when we hit OK, this is your input message. So the minute they click on that cell, it's going to tell them it must be 5 characters long. If they only type 3 characters, this is your stop message. Must be 5 characters long. Min length was the title, in which case they can retry or cancel. Either one of these is going to take them back to that cell in edit mode. And now if they type enough characters, we're good to go. Let's talk about validating the date. I'll select down here, data validation. So any value? Nope, it has to be a date. We'll use its date. Does it have to be between anything? So you could say, yeah, it needs to be between 7/1/2024. And you could put in another date of whatever. So the date they enter has to be between those 2 ranges. I won't mess with the input box or the error alert. You hit OK. And so now if they put in 6/1 or 14/2024, we get this error message. We can retry it and change it to 7, and we're good to go. The other thing you can do for dates that's kind of fun is you can use formulas. So we may say the date has to be less than, let's go less than or equal to, and I watch this. We're going to put in a formula and say equal today. Remember the today function, which puts in today, and it has the open and close parentheses. So now the date has to be less than or equal to today. Or we could say something is between. We could say equal today minus 10. And the end date is equal today, open and close paren, don't forget, plus 10. So the date range will depend on the date that they open the spreadsheet, but we're only going to let them go back 10 days and forward 10 days, and we hit OK. Oh, what did I do wrong? I spelled today wrong right here, so that's a problem. Open and close parens, that's what most people do wrong, is forgetting that part, but I got that. And now we hit OK, and so it's only going to accept 10 days from today, either behind or forward. Let's talk about delivery. I want them to spell this correctly, because if they spell it wrong, I get an error in my formula. So what I'm going to do is select that cell, escape, and we'll go to data validation. And this time, the value is from a list. I'm going to give them a list of values. Now, the source of the list can either be a range of cells on a spreadsheet, or you can type the source. So for instance, in this case, it's not going to apply, but if the source of my list is days of the week, you can just type Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever the case may be. I won't type anymore. So the source of my list I can type in, but very often I'm using some range on my spreadsheet. So let's go back to that data validation. And notice when you type the source of your list, you don't have an equal sign. If we use data off of the spreadsheet like we're about to, you can just select through those cells and it will put in an equal sign. The number one mistake students will make with data validation is they don't put in this equal sign, which, by the way, I'm not even sure how you do that, because the minute you grab it, automatically puts in that equal sign for you. I think what they're doing is typing the range, and then it doesn't have an equal sign. Let's try that again. Is it? Yeah, 4:E7. If it doesn't have an equal sign, when you go to look here, you literally get E4 to E7. So you need that equal sign in there. Or better yet, don't type it. Just go ahead and drag through that range. So now I will drag through the range. It has the equal sign. And now I can say overnight and it'll automatically put in the 1. If I say standard, it'll automatically put in the 5 with my XLOOKUP formula. Let's do another list for item IDs. Now here's a problem. This product list is a table, right, with 3 columns, item ID, name, and price, and the table is called products. What I would like to be able to do is go to data validation and reference that table. So I'm going to say this is a list, and it equals the product table, square bracket, item ID. But here's the problem. This does not work. You cannot use a table name as a source for your data validation list. So a lot of times what we can do is use what we showed in the last video on named ranges, is we'll name this range item ID, and then we can use that named range in our data validation. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's select this range of item IDs all the way to the bottom. And now we'll go to the formula ribbon and define name. And right here, it's going to say the name is this. We're going to fix that. We will call it product IDs, just to give it IDs. And it's a workbook scope and refers to the table name and that column. So we hit OK. Now, when we come over here for our data validation in our list, we will go to data validation. And we are going to allow a list, and we want to use the name that we just created. On your keyboard, if you hit function F3, it will come up with all of the defined names that you have in your workbook. And right now we only have 1, so we can just select it off our list. Or if you happen to remember the name, you can start to type it equal product IDs. And you can just type it in there. Don't forget your equal sign. And so now our list for this column is going to be the product IDs. We won't mess with the input or the error alert. We'll just hit OK. And so now there is a list of all the different IDs, and I don't have to worry about the user typing something funky. Even down here, I can put it in. I must have something else going on in my formula. I'll go ahead and straighten it out by dragging these down. There we go. So anyway, that's another way of doing our list is by referencing a named range. And in this case, our named range is referencing a table, which is really handy because if we add another product, it will automatically show up in our list. So just for fun, I'll put in a ZZZ011 product right here. And if I go back to our list, and I have to scroll to the very bottom, there is our brand new product. Of course, I didn't give it a name or a price. One more example of data validation, and by the way, the list is the one I use a lot, but you can also, I'm going to go to this quantity data validation, is tell them I need a whole number, or maybe it has to be a decimal number. In this case, it's going to be a whole number between, we don't want them to buy one and then they have to, or anything less than one, and it has to be a maximum of 10, for instance. So we hit OK, and so now if I type 1.1, it's going to give me an error message, cancel. If I type 0, it's going to give me an error message, cancel. If I type 5, we're good to go. So it's data validation. I'm ensuring that the user is typing something that I expect in these cells. Again, it's going to help with formulas because I can't, if they type letters or something goofy, it's going to break any kind of math or some formulas that I might have in my spreadsheet. So that is it for data validation. The number one mistakes I have with students in creating data validation is forgetting that equal sign. So they'll come over and they'll do a list and they have a named range, but they don't put an equal sign in front of it. And so then your list will just have that word rather than the actual list of your products. And so that's it.